In this video, we are going to talk about top 10 insane psychological experiment ever, so before starting this video, please like this video, and subscribe to our channel for the future updates. Here's a list of the top 10 insane psychological experiment ever. Let's start. Number 10, a Russian scientist once tried to create a human/monkey hybrid. A Russian scientist named Ilya Ivanovich Ivanov, back in the early 1900s, had an idea that he thought was absolutely brilliant. He wanted to see if he could make a hybrid being between a human and a chimpanzee, or a human Z if you will. At first, he started by rounding up 13 female chimpanzees and repeatedly injecting them with human sperm. Number 9, many people don't realize that what Pavlov did to his dogs was horrendously cruel. Pavlov is known for his experiments with dogs and bells where he taught them to salivate at the ringing of a bell by associating it with food. Number 8, scientists once studied if people were conscious or thinking shortly after being guillotined. The guillotine was a marvelous new contraption to execute people quickly and relatively humanely. Number 7, Japan's Unit 731 was notorious for performing vivisections on experimentation subjects. When most people think of atrocities in World War II, they tend to think of the Germans and the Holocaust. You might also hear them point out evil things the United States did, or even Russia, but Japan is rarely mentioned. This is probably because they are staunch allies of ours today, but during WW2 they were a dangerous enemy that gave us incredible trouble. They were known for marching our soldiers to death and hosting brutal prison camps. But what many people don't realize is that they also took territory well into China, and their worst deeds were done to helpless civilians. Number 6, Joseph Mengele tried to sew twins together to create functioning Siamese twin. Joseph Mengele is well known for being the evil Nazi doctor responsible for trying to create perfect Aryans, doing all kinds of creepy medical things to people without their consent, and also for a very bizarre fixation and obsession with twins. Some people even believe that his obsession with twins has had consequences that last to this day. There is a village in Brazil where there are an incredibly high number of twins, making the village an anomaly. Genetic scientists found that there was a common gene found in most of the women in the village that caused them to be more likely to have twins, and that inbreeding had made it worse over time. These were also all German immigrants. Number 5. The man who tried to raise his child as a bilingual English and Klingon speaker. A father in the United States not long ago told the newspapers his ludicrous story of trying to teach his son to speak Klingon as he grew up, as a social experiment. Now, this may sound incredibly irresponsible of him, but his wife and everyone else he was around were still speaking to him in English, and he was learning to read English in school. Number 4. A doctor drank down infected broth for an experiment, when all other options failed him. A physician and Nobel Prize winner named Barry Marshall was having an issue back in the 1980s. He needed to prove to his colleagues that stomach ulcers were caused not by stress, but by bacteria. His appeals to his colleagues' senses were not working, and the experiment wouldn't work properly on mice or other rodents in this case, so only humans would do the trick. Number 3. The Little Albert experiments were horrifically unethical and would be illegal today. The Little Albert experiments were a series of experiments done on a little toddler named Albert, who was unfortunate enough to be alive back in the infancy of psychology in the United States, when ethics basically didn't exist and you could perform whatever evil experiment came leaping to the forefront of your black and demented heart. One psychologist back in the day had heard of the Pavlov experiment, but decided that he wanted to use it on humans with his own twist. He wanted to see if he could use noise associations to make children fear things. Instead of salivating, he wanted a terrified child who had an aversion to the stimuli. So he would allow the little boy to play with toys, like stuffed animals of little dogs and stuff like that, or Santa. And then he would come up behind the little toddler and make really loud scary noises and horribly frighten the little guy. This was repeated over and over to see if the associations took hold, and they seemed to. The kid, at least for some time, was afraid of things like Santa, and certain animals and such. Number 2, the United States sprayed the bacteria Serratia marcescens over multiple major cities. The United States government has been accused of some crazy things like chemtrails, but the only reason conspiracy theorists believe that stuff is because the government has done some pretty crazy and similar things in the past and kept it secret for decades. Number 1. Facebook once performed a psychological experiment on hundreds of thousands of their users. People have forgotten that back in 2012, Facebook, the company that has taken over our lives, tried out an incredibly insane and unethical psychological experiment on their users that should have created way more backlash. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoy this video and want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go. Thanks for watching.